Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Rain here. Just wanted to hop on and talk because I like to. I had mentioned in my opening video a while back that one of the things that I really wanted to do beyond sharing babies was share some of my other passions, and I had mentioned sociopaths and sort of that darker shadow side of life. I haven't really been sure like how to bring that in. But I thought I would start with sharing a little bit of an excerpt from something that I'm writing, that I'm working on. First, say good morning to Mr. Ronin. He is sporting this beautiful blue koala baby outfit. And I think blue is his color for sure. And he's extra cuddly this morning, so he's just going to sit here and join us. So I wanted to share a little something that I wrote as part of a bigger project I'm working on. And it came about, I've shared before that one of the things that was a goal of mine that I never achieved was to be a criminal profiler. And I actually went to school for forensic psychology for a time in New York. At John Jay College of Criminal Justice, which is like an awesome criminal justice school. But I moved and followed a guy and dropped that, and then just sort of complained about not following my dream until I became too old to ever possibly do it. And then felt a little sorry for myself until I realized, well, you never really took the steps to do it while you could, so it's not the age requirement that's the problem. But so I've kind of always wondered, with the percentages, the estimated number of serial killers that are out there, like, have I ever come in contact with one? And then the more I've learned about sociopathy, formerly called sociopaths, were called psychopaths before, I started to realize that those traits actually are very common in really successful business people, entrepreneurs, regular people who aren't, but they're pretty common. The lack of empathy, the ability to paint the picture that they need to paint to get what they want from people, the inability to see other people as other people with feelings, and I've come to understand that every disorder, whether you look at it as a psychological or a mental disorder, or you recognize it as a spiritual lack, or an overactivity of ego, or an underdeveloped personality trait, quality, element, whatever, to me it's all the same, described in different ways, right? That it all operates in the gray, like on a sliding scale. I don't think people are either sociopaths or normal. I think that we have tendencies, we have shared traits, and maybe a strong constitution or something that keeps us in check. Anyway, so I've always wondered, how many killers have I actually come in contact with? Would I recognize one? And I believe that I came very physically close to 3, at least last year. All bam, bam, bam in rapid succession. So I wrote the start of one of my chapters is called Serial Killers and the Second Agreement. And the Second Agreement refers to the Second Agreement from Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the 4 Agreements. So I said everything I needed to know about the Second Agreement I learned from psychopaths. No, but seriously, Don Miguel Ruiz's The 4 Agreements is the shortest and sweetest bit of wisdom for personal freedom that I can think of. It is also one of the most difficult to really get on a deep level. Particularly number 2, don't take anything personally. Understanding and admitting this one was a personal evolution in and of itself. They were just words that the performer in me could recite and get behind back when I first heard them. As time passed and my facade became less appealing to me, they started to chip away to the core of real understanding, like hammering at a boulder with a screwdriver. The path went something like this: pie in the sky, passive aggressive, something I really wanted, something I was really starting to get. So the second agreement, just if you are not familiar, don't take anything personally. Whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves. All people live in their own dream, in their own mind. They're in a completely different world from the one we live in. When we take something personally, we make the assumption that they know what is in our world, and we try to impose our world on their world. Even in when a situation seems so personal, even if others insult you directly, it has nothing to do with you. What they say, what they do, and the opinions they give are according to the agreements they have in their own minds. Taking things personally makes you easy prey for these predators. And then this I thought was interesting. He goes on to say, even the opinion you have about yourself is not necessarily true. Therefore, you don't need to take whatever you hear in your own mind personally. Don't take anything personally, because by taking things personally, you set yourself up to suffer for nothing. When we really see other people as they are without taking it personally, we can never be hurt by what they say or do. Even if others lie to you, it's okay. They are lying to you because they are afraid. Blah, blah, blah. Goes on with other amazing fabulousness. Also reminds me of a quote from a movie called The 12 Dates of Christmas that I love, with Amy Smart. And Amy Smart's character, her neighbor, once says to her, I don't pay attention to reputation. Reputation is just history in rumor form. So, back on topic. So when I think about things like that, the second agreement, it's like a spiritual teaching that is about like how to navigate your daily life with people being crappy to you and that kind of thing. But then how far do we extend it? I always like to test that. Like, where do your beliefs go to? Like, is there but that this is too far? So what about people doing like the ultimate physical harm, violence, physical violence, sexual violence, that kind of thing? So recently, I was walking from the grocery store to my car and passed a man in the parking lot. I smiled. He half smiled. I felt inner confusion and remembered a couple of weeks before it that I was walking my dog and passed a hulking Boo Radley kind of a man in a jumpsuit. The first ever that I seriously felt was likely a serial killer. I mean, for real. Statistically, I know that I had to have, or would, cross paths with one eventually, but I had no idea who it would have been until this guy. But back to my point, anyone who has watched enough true crime TV or Criminal Minds or read anything by John Douglas will get my dilemma in that parking lot. Do I smile or do I not? If I smile and he's a creep, he may think I'm in love with him and latch on. But if I don't, I might remind him of all those girls who rejected him in high school and his weird relationship with his mom and become a target. Do I be genuine, friendly Renee, who likes to bring a smile to people's day and help them feel seen? Or do I be bitch face, don't mess with me city Renee? Then I got it. What the crazies do has practically nothing to do with me. My smile or lack of a smile is not the cause of the violence that may or may not come my way from a sociopathic predator. Their psychoses are their psychoses. Okay, so all these quotes we saw on Facebook are actually onto something. It's easier to see when considering an extreme example. Of course, it was not that poor girl's fault that crazy Johnny latched on in his delusion. When someone is a shit for seemingly no reason, it has very little to do with you and everything to do with them. When your husband or your wife or your brother or your boss is frustrated with you and lashes out or criticizes, and it seems uncalled for, don't go nuts trying to be just right or convince them that you are. Their neuroses are their neuroses, and yours are yours. Even if you were an ass, reaction is the property of the owner. A Christian teacher explained it in a lesson once, and the image has stayed with me. When you squeeze a tube of toothpaste, what comes out? Toothpaste. Why? Because you squeezed it, right? No, because that is what was in the tube. Don't take anything personally. So like it took this extreme example of, uh, you know, is it the victim's fault when violence befalls them because they unwittingly played into the delusion of the other? Which is, of course, no. To realize that because I see everything is on the gray sliding scale, that on these smaller interactions, the emotional interactions, the verbal interactions, it's the same thing. I don't know what somebody's neuroses are or filters are, and it frequently has little to nothing to do with what I do on whether I can avoid the wrath. So that's that. An interesting thing that I heard recently, in one of the, I guess it was probably on a podcast, but it was in an interview with someone who had worked with a serial killer, was this concept of cubing. One of them called it cubing. If you picture like a cube, Ted Bundy was a master at this. You know, he had the law student, budding political guy, handsome, charming, smart, successful, kind personality that he developed, which he wasn't always. He was very insecure and unsuccessful and things, but he reinvented himself. And then you had this malicious, cold guy who was a predator and got, lived for the hunt and didn't see the girls that he hurt as anything other than things, but he maintained a long-term relationship to maintain this image. But it was almost like he knew about, it was all him, right? But when he was operating on one side of the cube, he wasn't operating on this side of the cube, so he could really effectively lie, probably pass lie detector tests, because it was almost like they didn't talk to each other, and he would operate on this cube really effectively, and then on this cube really effectively. And I see that in my personal interactions in my daily life with people that I have relationships with too. But I have a question for you guys, something that I've been thinking about for a while. And it's a tough one because, I don't want anybody to hurt anybody or be violent against anybody. And I have a tendency to say it's evil, But here's my question. If somebody legitimately, for example, lacks the ability to feel empathy, right? Like, it's not like they're a selfish jerk, okay? Let's just say, try to picture they legitimately do not recognize the feelings and thoughts and identity of another person outside of their function, that person's function in their experience. It's hard to really picture something that you're incapable of, but let's just say that they are legitimately incapable of that. Are they evil when they don't feel remorse? Because I've seen that a lot. That, in the victim statements, in trials, and in the interviews afterwards, they say that the families will say, he had no remorse, so he was pure evil. If they can't, how do we classify that? All right, so I'll just stop with that. I could expand on it and describe it in different ways, but you can certainly apply that question to other things as well. If people legitimately are this way, then can you see the result of their actions as evil? And I'll just say at the end of it all that it's all fascinating. I believe that we all come from the source of all life, that we operate within it. It operates within us. We are connected. This is a physical manifestation of a lower vibration energy that is an energy that makes up the entire world and all of existence beyond this world, beyond this universe, galaxy, or galaxy universe. God. And there are different ideas of why we're playing things out in an earthly experience, but I believe that that all the world is but a stage and we are merely players, and this is not the final stop. And so it's much easier for me to stay less traumatized by certain things in life. So remember that you are so beautiful. Thanks for coming by and watching. I hope you have some thoughts to comment below, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.